Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on our latest all-new edition of the Milford Informer. I am Milford TV Executive Director Tim Coed, happy to be taking you officially into the month of November now. Fall continues to speed along here at a rapid pace as we quickly approach the end of 2024. It has been a jam-packed fall season here in the Milford community, so we may go beyond our 30 minutes here tonight. We'll see how things shake out as we have a number of top stories to bring you this evening, featuring different goings-on from all across the Milford community. We do want to begin tonight with news related to Milford's special town meeting. If you were not aware, Milford held their special town meeting on Monday, October 21st. A 30-article warrant appeared before town meeting members, and the meeting took place in just under 3 hours as the town decided on a number of important issues. A few of those created some discussion amongst town meeting members, and so here is a brief recap of some of the biggest moments from special town meeting.
I took it upon myself to seek out the owners of these properties. The owners of these properties that did not live in these neighborhoods. And I said to these owners, a couple of them, I'm being vague on owners, obviously, in the places I visited. And I sat with these people and I said, your tenants, we've been there 5 times in the last 2 weeks. And I was laughingly told, can't see it from my house, Robbie. So the story goes in the shoe drop. Why? Because in the current bylaw, there is no teeth to fine the owner or to hold the leasing company responsible. And that's what this amendment does. It gives me the legal teeth, for lack of a better word, to hold owners, stakeholders, property managers accountable.
After hearing Chief Tazzino's remarks and hopefully not violating the church-state separation, I say amen.
Any homeowner, any business owner that wants to work with the Milford Police, that wants to work with the town to remedy a situation, we are here to work with everybody. This is for the person that says, can't see it from my house, boom, and the door slams. And that's what happened, the door slammed. Lucky enough I was standing further enough back, it didn't hit me. But that's what this is for, not for the people, to quote you, sir, in a bad situation, because you're 100% right, and we will continue to work with homeowners in a bad situation. We are one of the only agencies that have found a way to combat mental health and wellness, addiction, and opioid overdoses. Big statement, true statement. What we did is we came up with a plan to partner police officers with clinicians out in the field. They want this collaboration with police and mental health clinicians, and they want an aggressive unit that can address this at the street level. We did such a good job, the state took away my money. You've had 0 overdose deaths as of this last year. You've responded to almost 1,500 mental health crisis calls in the field. Amazing, Robbie. We didn't think you could do it. You did it. We're going to cut your funding. Why this is so important? Because we bridge the gap for those that struggle with mental health and wellness and the disease of addiction. I came up with the idea of we were treating people as this isolated incident. Addiction is no different than any other disease. And if you don't think it is, you need some mental health and wellness. So I urge your support of this. You are saving lives. It's that simple.
Now, I'm not stupid. I know you're going to pass this article. But the previous speaker talked about addiction being a disease just like any other disease. It is not. Addiction is by choice. Cancer is not by choice.
Hey. You let the man speak. Go ahead, Mr. Visconti.
Why don't we let the intelligent one have their say? Thank you. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, as I'm sure many of you know, we are experiencing an overcrowding problem in the residential sections of the town of Milford. We have owners, landlords who are setting up illegal apartments, segmenting the property, for residential use, which is not otherwise intended for that. Similarly, on the other end, we have tenants who go into apartment houses unbeknownst to landlords and erect their own walls and other obstructions to create a number of rooms. All of this results in more people being in the property than the state sanitary code allows. Giving the town the eyes and the ears into these properties by getting out and doing the measurement inspections. Through that collaborative and collective effort, get the message out and prevent the kind of overcrowding that we're seeing happening in the town right now.
This would be a destination store with a wide variety of beverages. Other than Denny's and Marlboro, the closest comparison is probably Julio's in Westboro. It's a store where shoppers go to stock up or to browse the aisles for hard-to-find varieties. The store would have over 800 varieties of craft beer, 1,500 types of wine. It's not set up as a convenience-style store. The store will have tastings with brewers and seasonal special events. As you may know, the Walgreens space has been empty for about a year. In this market, there are not many potential tenants for a space of this size, which is about 11,000 square feet. We think this type of destination store would be a very good fit for the plaza compared to other potential users and help revitalize the plaza. We understand that there are some smaller liquor stores near the Shaw's Plaza and that some folks are concerned about competition on those stores. We think Milford is big enough to support a variety of stores of different sizes. Milford Wine and Spirits would occupy a different part of the market than small boutique stores. Samir is looking to bring a new shopping option to this side of town, not to put anyone out of business.
I don't believe another liquor store is something that this town really needs. So for that reason, I would suggest we vote no on this.
Clapping is not necessary. No applause. Just listen to what the speaker has to say. Thank you.
I'm pretty good, though.
Yeah.
That's all. Thank you.
You have your moments.
What town got the first legal alcohol beer license to sell? In Milford, Massachusetts, historically. You know where it is? It's called Hickey's. These big people come in, they don't care about Hickey's, they don't care about Milford. You should care about your own people first, and then worry about the other people go someplace else to make money. Okay, let's take care of our own. That's all I want to say.
This parcel will be filled with something. Why are we settling for another liquor store when we already have two in the exact proximity? So again, not opposed to the license conceptually. It's just from a municipal planning standpoint, it's just bad planning. Thank you.
A little competition never hurt anybody. However, it does help many people. With as you've seen tonight, prices for goods and services skyrocketing, okay? A little competition will benefit the citizens of Milford tremendously. Think about how the pain will be eased a little bit when you pop the cork on that bottle of wine that you're having with a nice candlelight dinner with your loved one, knowing that you got a better deal because there was competition in this town, okay? Please approve this article. It will help every resident in this town. Thank you.
I worked at Mac Package, which will be across the street from this new liquor store. This store is a part of Milford. You can't tell me that putting a liquor store directly across the street from it isn't going to hurt them, and it's not an attack on their revenue and their livelihood. So you're going to be damaging Mac Package, you're going to be hurting Garden Pizza, you're going to be hurting Subway. It's too much. It's too much. And lastly, do we want to be the town known for having a liquor store across the street from a liquor store? What does that say to people looking to move to Milford about our priorities, what we believe in? Liquor? It's in poor taste. We have enough liquor stores. Thank you.
All those in favor of a new special legislation for a new special legislation to petition the legislature for special legislation to provide for the grant of an additional license for the sale of all alcoholic beverages to be consumed on premises, said license to be located at, not to be consumed on premises, said license to be located at 93 Prospect Street. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The motion is defeated.
In just a few short days, the Claflin Hill Symphony Orchestra will officially raise the curtain on their 25th anniversary season. Such a great milestone for a truly iconic institution here in the Milford community. As we prepare to celebrate along with Claflin on their 25th anniversary season, we've sat down over the last couple of months with Paul Surapine to get nostalgic and go back through the history of Claflin Hill all the way back to the early days 25 years ago. And of course, there would be no Claflin Hill without Paul Surapine. So for our first look back on these 25 years of Claflin, we talked to Paul about his own origin story in the music business. Once again, I'm joined by the director of the Claflin Hill Symphony, Paul Surapine, as we start to reflect on 25 years of the Claflin Hill Symphony Orchestra here in Milford. And one of the things, Paul, as we've talked over time, obviously Claflin has started with you. You have been the very heart and soul of this orchestra since its inception, and so I feel like that's a great place for us to start. There wouldn't be Claflin Hill if there wasn't Paul Surapine. So I'm curious to dig into your history, Paul. Like what first made you fall in love with music? What was sort of your origin story in this field?
Yeah, well, I if anything, I guess you could say it was my mother. My mother, Carol Surapine, who's still with us and, occasionally can make it to a concert. My mother had studied piano as a young child. She came from northern Maine. She got sent down by her family to live near Boston in high school to stay with some cousins that lived there, and so she could study piano. Seriously study piano and maybe BU at the time while she was in high school. She had wanted to be a musician, I think, but, her life didn't really work out that way. But as little kids, I still remember in the afternoons, while we would be busy playing with toys or something, we would hear her practicing piano music that she remembered from, when she had studied. It was really my mother's influence. And, I was the oldest kid, so I was the first one to go through the public school system and then the public music system, the music department. And, one day this gentleman came to our elementary school, and there was an assembly, and he told us that if we all promised to practice 30 minutes a day, we could sign up to have free lessons. We could pick an instrument. I don't know, I had it in my head I wanted to be a trumpet player. And so when we got to that meeting that night at the elementary school, the first thing the instrument representative said to me was, "Show me your teeth," and my teeth were kind of growing and crooked. He said, "Well, you can't be a brass player with crooked teeth. Pick another instrument, and that's it." And, I was kind of dumbfounded because I didn't have a backup choice. But then that summer, I remember my mother had us watching the Benny Goodman Story one night on TV. It was like a movie, black and white. Steve Allen was in it. It's a good old flick from the 1950s, the story of Benny Goodman. And I thought, well, I kind of liked the music in that movie, and I liked the Benny Goodman biography story. It was like really kind of interesting. So I said, well, I'll try the clarinet. I couldn't make a sound come out of the thing. I was the worst one. I was trying to blow in the thing like it was a kazoo, and everybody else is walking around the room honking and tooting, and I'm like getting nothing. And I'm getting kind of frustrated because I'm that kind of person, like alpha dog or something, and it was like, I'm getting a little angry about this, and he's like, relax, no, blow, don't hum, blow. I finally got a note to come out. He's like, okay, go home and practice, Go home, I couldn't remember how to put it together. I mean, I was really the worst one starting in that week, and didn't really get the knack of it for a while, except one day around February, there was something in our lesson assignment in the class that, I had really worked on. I kind of liked it. It was a technical exercise, and, I remember Mr. Salomone turned to me, down the line of students there and said, young man, someday you're going to be a fine clarinet player. It's like, thank you. I went home and told my mother. I've always had this sort of urge to create ensembles, and so that's my background. I finished high school. The teacher I had studied through high school with was a man named Ken Legacy. He had been a student of Kalman Opperman, who I mentioned previously. I got a full scholarship to go to St. Louis Conservatory. In St. Louis, the second semester, I actually kind of did what I now do at Claflin Hill. I decided I'm kind of a short timer here at this school. The guy is a nice guy and a great player, but not much of a teacher. So I just set about creating my own concerts. Every week I did a recital. So I kind of did a whole spring semester of self-created ensemble and solo performances. But, I moved to Milford and was still going out of town for all my work, but I started to meet people. I met a neighbor, and he asked me what I did. I said I was a professional musician. He said, there's a lot of musicians here in Milford. I was like, yeah, really? I mean, if anybody that is an accordion thinks they're a musician. Then I started to find out the heritage. It was like, holy cow. This was like a happening place here, So got involved and decided this is the place we could do this.
So you moved to Milford in the early 90s. You didn't necessarily move to Milford and say, this is where I'm going to start a symphony orchestra.
No.
It sort of happened organically once you were here in the community?
Yeah, so what happened, the second summer we lived in Milford, the Milford Daily News had a little article one night in the paper about, the new bandstand was going to be dedicated, this week on a Tuesday night, with the Milford Concert Band giving a concert. So I'm sitting here at Milford Town Park that night, and it seemed like there were 1,000 people there for this dedication concert, and there were hot dogs grilling and lemonade, and people were playing tennis on the tennis courts over there, and basketball behind me, and they were doing like a standard summer pops band program, Broadway, some light classical, marches. It was like, this is like being at Seaside Park in Brooklyn again. So I went up to the guy who was the manager at the time. His name was Eddie Scirocco, and I had met him at the Music Nook already, and said, well, if you need a clarinet player, give me a call, because, I just moved to town and I'm not doing much work. I'd be happy to come play. He said, well, our first clarinet just quit. Can you play next week? It was like, sure. I played at Carnegie Hall in October of 1995 with the clarinetist Richard Stoltzman. It was a family concert. Saturday afternoon, every seat in the house was $5. Place was packed with people who had never come to Carnegie Hall. Went home that night with my wife and said, wow, that's what we should all be doing. I mean, we need to create new ways to get people into concert halls, otherwise we're going out of business. Came home that night and put like 5 or 6 folders on my dining room table of projects, including working on getting the concert band here going again, rejuvenating it, and that's how the next summer family night, the bandstand, was born.
So that very first Claflin Hill Symphony concert, do you still remember that day as vividly now as when it happened?
Yep. Yeah, so that, it was a hot night. At one point, the chorus was doing some a cappella, just chorus alone on that concert. I can remember standing outside in the parking lot of the town hall, go out and get some cool air maybe, take a break from the sauna. I didn't have to play in that. And just looking up at the building and listening to music coming out of it. And there were like people that live in some of the apartment buildings around, and they're kind of out on their steps and probably like, what's all that noise coming out of the town hall? There's all these cars and there's something going on over there. And I thought, wow, this is kind of cool. This would be kind of cool to do on a regular basis.
We've talked a lot about starting the orchestra, your origin story, Paul, but obviously a crucial component to a symphony orchestra is the musicians that you gather together. And we've talked a lot when you and I have had conversations over the years that the musicians that you bring together have really become a family over the lifetime of Claflin Hill. As you look back over the 25 years, what was it like first building that group of musicians, and what has it been like to continue to keep that group together or expand that group in all of the years since?
You know, we have a great base of truly world-class musicians that we can draw on. You know, I looked for people that kind of had the same attitude and energy that I was bringing to the job, you know, and so I never really auditioned anybody ever. It was just people I met on other gigs. It was like, man, you sounding great, you know, yeah. You want to be part of my orchestra? A lot of the people that I already had were the ones that brought me new people. So it was more like referral, word of mouth. They are on the ground floor, and I've expressed this to them sometimes. You know, you don't even realize how important this thing is that we've done, and one of the most worthy things you could have ever done with your performance career. You know, I mean, what, you got 30, 40 years of good playing in you, you know, and then you're going to be trying to sit down and do some listening instead. We've had a real family atmosphere in, you know, everybody cheers for each other, everybody knows about their kids, each other's kids. We mourn with each other when things pass, you know, relatives, parents pass, when things happen to us in our lives. I mean, you have a whole orchestra, community, family behind you that's supporting you. And, you know, I think by and large, a lot of other orchestras don't really have that kind of culture.
So here is one final reminder. If you have not yet purchased tickets to the first concert of the season for Claflin Hill Symphony Orchestra as they celebrate their 25th anniversary milestone, you have a few days left to do it, as Claflin will host that first concert. It is titled Classical Icons. There will be some major works from classical music history performed during this concert, so make sure you get your tickets. That concert is coming up on Saturday, November 9th at 7:30 p.m. over at Milford Upper Town Hall. You can learn all of the details on the concert, the entire symphony series, and you can purchase tickets by heading over to claflinhill.org. We move on to our next top story now. We have an important piece to bring you from our friends over at Community Impact. Amy Leone was recently in our studios to record a very important piece on opioid overdose awareness and also Narcan use. And so we have some of the details from that presentation to share with you here tonight.
Hi everybody, I'm Amy Leone. I am the Director of Community Impact in Chris's Corner and the Milford Police Family Services Unit. So today I am going to do a training on opioid overdose awareness and a Narcan education for you. Community Impact recently became an affiliate of the Massachusetts Community Naloxone Program, which allows us to be able to provide nasal Narcan to residents free of charge. So the first slide that we're going to discuss today is just to give you an idea of what the overdose rates look like in the state of Massachusetts. This graph here is from 2000 to 2022, and you can see that over the years the rates have increased, obviously, to 2022 being 2,357 overdose-related deaths in the state of Massachusetts. For many of you that don't know, over the past 2 decades, the town of Milford and Community Impact have been doing a lot of work in regards to substance prevention, education, and intervention. And so here you will see in 2012, we started tracking our data of non-fatal overdoses, fatal overdoses, and then when we saw the shift from the decrease in overdoses, we started tracking alcohol-related protective custodies or overdoses. So to give you an example, at the height, in 2018, we had, in the town of Milford, we had 95 non-fatal overdoses, and we had 10 overdose fatal deaths. In 2019, we reduced it to 72 with 2 fatalities. In 2020, we reduced it to 4 with 2 deaths. And now bringing it down to 2023, we are at 25, we were at 25 overdoses, 3 related deaths. Now in 2024, as you can see, the consistency of our efforts, we are at 21 overdoses with 0 deaths right now in November. What we're seeing now is fentanyl. We're seeing it in pressed pills. We're seeing it just purely as fentanyl. And so that can take seconds. So where the opioid could take a longer time, the fentanyl overdoses happen within minutes, seconds, whatever that may be. So when you're looking at somebody who could be signs of overdose, you're going to see that unresponsive to any physical or verbal stimulation. So if you're yelling at them, calling their names, you're kind of hitting them. People will say, like, I slapped them in the face, they didn't respond. They're just not going to be responsive to that. Then, like I said, you're going to see that slow breathing. That's their respiratory depression. Then you're going to hear the most fearful thing, which is that deep snoring or that gurgling. And for some of you have been in the presence of somebody who is overdosing, that deep snoring and that gurgling is something that you will never forget and something that you've probably, hopefully, never heard before. You will start to see that their color is turning like a bluish purple, but almost like a gray. And you'll see that within their face, their lips for sure, and then obviously on their fingertips. If their eyes are open, you will see those pinpoint pupils, and they'll obviously have a slow pulse. So when you think about the Narcan, this is how it will come. So it will come in this box right here, and it'll come, there's 2 of these that come in. So you'll just peel off the back of it, and then you will have this little contraption. So what you will do is you'll take the tip of the nostril and you'll just push, there's a pink, and you just push up and you put that up the nostril and touch it with your fingers. And then you can do the other side to the other person's nose. Very simple. Even if they are not using an opiate and you suspect that, this Narcan is not going to do any harm to them. So you can do that. You can use 2, wait a few seconds and put it into the nose, and then wait a few seconds and you'll be using your rescue breathing. Very, very simple. So how do you know? The question is, like, how do you know if somebody has received enough Narcan? They'll start to become alert. They'll be responding to that verbal or their physical stimuli. And like we just said before in the previous slides, they'll be breathing 8 or more breaths per minute. So you'll start to see that. After completing this training, you will be able to get the 4 milligrams of Narcan as well as one of our safety bags. And so Family Services Unit and Chris's Corner have come together, and we have created these bags that has a breathing mask, it has fentanyl strips in it, it has a dosage of Narcan, and then it says how to use both of them. How to use the fentanyl strips, how to use the Narcan. So that if you had a loved one that you needed to give this to, you could give them this to them and they would still have the mechanisms of how to use the Narcan. If there is, obviously you can get the Narcan at Chris's Corner, which is down at 12 Main Street, and then Community Impact is at 12 Congress Street. Chris's Corner is a recovery resource center, and so at Chris's Corner we help with case management. If people need to find jobs, they need to find housing, they need help with insurance. We have recovery coaching. We can help get people into programs, into detox, into PHPs. And we can also just help with their recovery coaching and developing that wellness plan and moving forward to possibly needing therapy or referring to medication. We do have Wayside Trauma is in there, and they do some trauma counseling and sexual assault counseling. We have groups constantly. Every single day we have coffee hours. We do a lot of community events. There's tons of things to be able to get involved in. Because one of the main things is that when you're struggling with addiction or you have a loved one that's struggling with addiction, the hardest part is that isolation that you feel. So with Chris's Corner and Community Impact and the Family Services Unit, we really are trying to build that community and connection for people so that they feel like they have a support system. They have a family that they can go to and people that are genuinely looking out for their best interests and wanting to help them. So at any time after this, if you feel like you need some resources or you have a loved one that could need some resources, that's the most important part, is that at Chris's Corner, we don't only deal with the person who is struggling with an addiction, we also deal with the loved ones, including husbands, wives, grandparents, children, the whole gamut, because the fact of the matter is that addiction is a family disease. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. The website is right there, as well as my email address, and the phone number is located as well. So thank you very much.
Finally, tonight on the Milford Informer, we turn our attention towards next week's all-important general election, which will, of course, take place on Tuesday, November 5th. One of the races on the state of Massachusetts ballot that's taken particular attention here locally has been the race for Governor's Council. 2 candidates involved in this race, and we do have the opportunity to share with you details from one of those candidates, as we received a testimonial from the Democratic candidate in the race, Tamisha Civil. So here's more from Tamisha herself.
Hi. My name's Tamisha Civil, and I'm running to represent you on the Governor's Council. I'd love to share my story and why I hope to earn your vote on November 5th. Here's a picture of my cousin. When I was young, my cousin was imprisoned for a crime he did not commit. He spent 27 years in prison before he was found innocent and released. His experience inspired me to get involved and to make a difference. It's because of his story and the other stories of people I've met my work in the justice system. That's why I'm running for Governor's Council. I want to use my experience to advocate for equal justice and ensure what happened to my cousin never happens to another family. I spent my life fighting injustice. I've served as a legal advocate for a domestic violence homeless shelter and a victim witness advocate for Suffolk County District Attorney's Office. I became an associate probation officer to reduce recidivism and help people safely re-enter society. This job has allowed me to work side by side with judges, police officers, and lawyers, and it has shown me the very best and the worst of our system. I've been involved in the community too. I've volunteered with the local organizations to address veterans' homelessness and mental health issues, and even help people in need directly founding a food pantry during the pandemic. I'm running for Governor's Council because I want to stand against injustice, to protect our rights, and to be a voice for change. I am 100% pro-choice, and I promise to only vote for judges who will uphold our reproductive rights. I will ensure that our judges prioritize equal justice, that they seriously address domestic violence, and that they treat addiction as mental health rather than a crime to be punished. During this uncertain time, I will work every single day to ensure our fundamental rights are not undermined in Massachusetts. The justice system failed my family, but it hasn't stopped me from working to create a better system for our future generation. I hope to continue that work as your Governor's Council. This November, let's elect Democrats up and down the ballot to protect our rights and make our system work better for you, the people. I'm Tamisha Civil, Democrat for Governor's Council, asking for your vote in this election, November 5th. Thank you.
The other candidate in this race is Republican Francis Crimmins Jr. Now, we did reach out to Mr. Crimmins' campaign, inviting him to submit a testimonial as well that we could air on the Milford Informer for you. Unfortunately, we did not hear back from the campaign leading up to the airing of this episode. However, Mr. Crimmins did appear on That Milford Show with Milford TV member Al Correa, so you can head over to Al's YouTube channel to find that episode as you look to get information leading up to Tuesday's Election Day. So with that, we leave you with the final information for the general election. For those of you who did not yet vote early, either by mail or early in-person voting over at Milford Town Hall, Election Day is your last chance to make your voice heard. And so here on your screen right now is all of the typical information related to Milford's 3 polling locations. So make sure you know your polling location. Voting will be available from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. here in Milford on Tuesday, November 5th. So make sure you exercise your constitutional right to vote on Tuesday, November 5th, as this election will surely have lasting implications not only here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but across our nation as well. That is going to wrap things up for this edition of the Milford Informer. As always, we thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll be back with you again another couple of weeks from now. From all of us here at Milford TV, this is Tim Coet saying have a great week. So long, everybody.